years.
But with all the things that I do, I internalize a ton of stuff. So
how do
when
you deal with it all? You just do.
I just do. I'll say something that I probably have never said this to somebody.
Are you tired of feeling like a contortionist after a long day working in clinical practice? This message is brought to you by our sponsors at Designs for Vision, who are offering you a 45-day free trial of any of their loops. But I strongly encourage you to try their ergonomic loops called Infinity View. Say goodbye to your chin down, neck cranked, poor posture, dental procedure and practice. All you have to do is go to their website, submit a form in order to get your rep to reach out to you, get measured, and get your loops. And then you get 45 days to figure out if you like them or if there's anything that you want to change. Or you can just send them back, but I don't think you will. So buckle up, get ready to rock the Infinity View loops and say hello to a life filled with joy, comfort, and amazing posture. Thank you, Designs for Vision, for creating these beautiful loops. I can't go back to my old ones, ever.
Dr. Paul Feuerstein, hello. I feel like I want to call you Dr. Paul, but I also feel like I need to be official, so
I've never
just
been,
call
I've
you
never
Dr.
been
Paul?
formal in my life.
Really? Thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
We've been in many interactions with one another, but never sitting on this podcast platform.
Interactions?
Well,
Wow.
I mean, like, show floor stuff and a couple of Zoom meetings.
Don't get me in trouble.
I feel like the last time I saw you at
Was it a-
Chicago Midwinter was last year. We were at the GC event.
Yep.
We sat at the table at the back. Who was there? Bob Marges. And
a number of people. Chad Duplantis.
Chad Duplantis was there. So we had the same crew that was there this year, but I didn't see you there.
I was on my way, and I got waylaid and never made it over there.
Well, we had a very deep conversation about your hair.
That's
and
correct.
At one
which
point,
is kind of messed up because of this headset.
I know, I'm sorry. And at one point, there were multiples of us giving you a head massage. And I think you took a photo of it and you sent it to your wife.
Yeah.
And I was the only female in the circle of friends there.
You know what? After all these years, I've been doing these meetings since 1970-something. And she just says, don't even show me this stuff.
She doesn't care anymore. No. So let's go back. Let's go back in time a little bit. I want to get to know you as a human before you became the, icon and leader that you have become in our industry. A beacon of light at times, I'm sure. Where did you grow up? Where did you go to school?
I grew up in New York City.
You were born in New York City?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was actually born in Brooklyn. Grew up in Queens, New York, and then went to undergraduate school called State University of New York at Stony Brook. And Stony Brook at the time, this is in the 60s, was a very rebellious school, and we did a lot of protest marches and all sorts of things. Got on TV for a few things that we did that weren't very nice.
This is in college already? You've already skipped through all of the beginning years. Take me back to the beginning years. Like, do you have any siblings?
Yeah. I have two younger brothers, and we're all in the music. We're all musicians. My whole family's musicians, going back to my grandmother.
Oh.
So we all have a innate talent. It's just we were blessed with this talent. So any of us can go to a piano and start playing without
by ear,
and just by looking at the keys. And I took it further. I went into woodwinds, clarinet, saxophone. I actually had a college scholarship on bassoon.
No way.
The reason they gave me the scholarship was because I played the bassoon. They didn't care how good I was.
I'm going to be completely ignorant right now and say I don't even know what a bassoon looks like.
It's this big long thing like this.
Okay.
It's kind of looks like a big tube, and this little tiny reed that you.
Is that the one that has like a little dampener?
Nope.
Where you?
Nope.
No.
It looks like a giant tube.
Okay, like a saxophone almost, but it doesn't bend.
Nope. It's a straight tube. It's like a big piece of wood, big hollow piece of wood with holes in it. You just play it. It's very classical. A lot of you'll recognize, like from Peter and the Wolf, if you ever remember that. There's a big bassoon character.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was my growing up. So
what
we all
kind of kid
played.
were you like? Were you the rebellious kind, or
No,
were you kind of the nerdy one or the quiet one?
Very nerdy. I was an expert as a kid in math and science, and all my schooling was tracked through math and science. So this ages me. I grew up in the 50s and 60s, so at the time the United States was fighting with Russia, and so the U.S. government said we have to find some brilliant people to fight the space race. So they
What's
tracked.
a space race?
It was the race to get into outer space, to get satellites up and things like that. So they were looking for young kids who had scientific talent, and we took a lot of tests. There were things called IQ tests. And
Yeah.
a group of us, including myself, were chosen to be the top brains, the top nerdy brains. And what they did was they tracked us differently through school. So my regular schooling, my public schooling, first of all, they said, you don't do your third grade, just go right to fourth grade. And then high school, they said, just do 7th, 8th, and 9th in 2 years. You know, we don't need a lot of stuff. But they gave me a concentration.
So you skipped 3 grades in total?
Yeah.
Wow.
And the problem is, I was very young, and my peers in my classes were 2 or 3 years older than me. So I wasn't even in puberty, and my friends were talking about stuff. I go, what? What are you talking about? So it was very, very challenging growing up. I graduated very, very young from high school, and then went to college. College I actually did 4 years, and I was one of the youngest graduates of that college. And then when I went to, I'll just jump real quickly to dental school, I was the youngest person in the whole dental school. So,
You and I have the same story. I've skipped 2 grades, and I was the first person to I graduated college before I was even legal.
Yeah, so
funny.
yeah. Oh, I taught high school. I was after college. I was teaching high school. I just turned 19. And I was my homeroom was 18 years old, and I was the teacher at age 19.
Wow.
But so through music.
Did you have a lot of friends in school, being so young?
No.
And I mean, it
Close.
sounds
My
like
friends were the nerdy friends.
right.
We just hung around together. So what the problem was that through college, actually high school and college, because I was tracked by the government, I wasn't taking English. I wasn't taking humanities. I wasn't taking anything. So all my undergraduate stuff, including college, was all science.
What were your social skills like?
None.
Yeah.
None.
That's why they don't skip kids' grades anymore.
No. It was. So I'm making up for it now. I'm like this crazy kid now. So I'm catching up from the back end of the whole thing.
And your parents, what were they like?
Normal. Nothing. My father was a CPA.
Yeah. So he was a nerdy accountant.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay.
I mean, I always loved. I go to work. I would work with him in the summers, and he worked in Manhattan, so we'd go into Manhattan. And in the old days, they had these ledgers where you had a bunch of numbers.
Yeah.
And he'd go like this with his finger, 7,
You
3.
would just know.
He was like a computer when he
Wow.
read the numbers. But I've always had this musical sidebar.
Did your dad have the musical side, or was your
No,
mom?
it was all my mom. And my mom is now 90. She's just turned 97.
Wow. Happy
And
birthday, Mom.
She's old, really old. But I was at my brother's house, and he handed her one of these little portable keyboards, and she started playing doot 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 doot. Boop, boop, boop. You know, so I mean, she hasn't lost that drive.
Wow.
My younger brother was a very, very talented keyboard player. He almost dropped out of school because he was practicing 5-6 hours a day. He became a premier player. He played with a lot of famous people. He was
Wow.
he was not the famous person. He was the person playing the piano for the famous person.
Oh,
For
okay.
example, one of the names you might have heard of is a guy named Billy Joel.
Oh, no way. He played keys for Billy Joel?
In the back of the band, yeah, and
No
they played with the band,
way.
stuff like that. But he was
Wow.
not. But he always explained. He says, "I'm the best keyboard player in the whole place, but I'm not Billy Joel.
No.
Or not Elton John. There's a very, very big difference."
Yeah.
But he unfortunately passed away very early for strange reasons, and so he's left a legacy, an amazing
What
legacy.
strange reasons?
Social stuff that you read about in the papers where people just get into funks in their lives, and it just overwhelmed his life, and it's a long, sad story.
I'm sorry you had to endure that.
No,
Go
it's
through
been my other brother and I are kind of mad at him in a way.
Yeah.
It's kind of a funny thing in life that why did you we tried as hard as we could to help him out of this whole thing with
Yeah.
you can talk all day long about therapy and whatever
Sure.
it is, but when it's happening and you're not that person, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
And we did whatever we could. So it's been sad, and just at his funeral, his music was playing
No way.
in the wake and everything else like that. So and to this day he has a lot of little videos on YouTube and things like that, and it's it's a hard pill
Yeah.
and we just live with it and know what he did, and he did everything. He did everything he could do. So
Yeah.
that's just part of life.
Was that a long time ago?
No,
Oh, recently.
a couple of years.
Yeah.
So, but
I think it's I'm in my I'm almost 40, right? I'm 38, and I think that generationally, talking and acting on mental health has become a lot more open in the millennial demographic. But I think about my parents and my grandparents, and when I think about them as humans, like they almost have this like stoic kind of way of living where like we don't talk about what upsets us, and we don't talk about those mornings where you don't want to get out of bed, or you don't talk about just wanting to set it all on fire and give up. Like,
well, the problem is, I mean, I
and that was normalized for many years.
But with all the things that I do, I internalize a ton of stuff. So
how
when
do you
see
deal
me,
with it all?
I just do. Well, see, I'll say something that I probably have never said this to somebody, but I'm kind of a character in dentistry. I mean, I have this kind of outrageous hair and all this stuff, and I'm very flamboyant. And I think over my lifetime, I sort of created this character, and I became that character.
Yeah.
And which is fine. I mean, it's fun. So I can. It's like getting up in the morning, I'm a clown in a circus. So I get up in the morning, and I become this other person. And every dentist does this too.
Right. With
When
patients.
you walk into the office, you turn everything else off and say, "Hi, how are you?"
Yeah.
And then at the end they go, "Ugh."
Yeah.
So that's just human nature. But I'm so distracted. I have so many things running at the same time. I don't have time to think about what's going on. So I just keep moving.
So if you were
moving.
to turn on that switch and become Dr. Paul with the crazy hair and the Tweety Bird lapel pin, who would you be?
I would probably be playing guitar in a subway station somewhere.
You think so? You'd just be like the hobo running around, like just doing something for fun.
And I had a big stage career. My biggest challenge the largest challenge of my career was when I was a junior in dental school. I had a very good band, a really good band, and we played I was in school in New Jersey, and we were playing in New York City probably 3 nights a week, and we got picked up by Decca Records.
I don't even know what that is.
It's a record company.
It sounds like a big deal the way you said it.
Well,
and I was well,
they had
what is that?
They had a lot of classical stuff, but they had a band called The Who. You probably have heard of The Who.
Oh, I've heard of The Who. Yeah.
So they were going into the rock business. They hired our band, and we recorded in their studio and did a nice something called a 45, which is this logo that I wear all the time.
What is it?
This
okay.
This little pin and my tie.
It kind of looks like a one of those spinning tops or something.
No, they were the 45 records. People listening know this. What's
like
going
the
on.
smaller records.
And it had a big hole in the middle.
Yeah.
So in order for that big hole to fit on your record player,
Yeah.
you put this little yellow thing into the center of it. And clipped it in.
It's also on your tie.
Yeah.
Look
It's
at that.
It's called a 45 adapter. I wore this tie one time because my wife gave it to me, and then I came to a meeting and everybody said, "Where's your tie?" I go, "What tie?" The one with the whole, the yellow things. I go, "Oh." So ever since then, I just wear it at every meeting. It's expected of me.
It's perfect. It's now your personality. That's interesting. That you're right. You're right that we do that in dentistry, and we have to like turn on this switch and off this switch between each patient.
Yeah.
Like you have to change your personality
And-
for
and-
every human. You
But
see
and interact with your staff too, and everything has to be all nice and wonderful.
Well, it doesn't have to be, but I think we make it
Yeah.
because we think that that's what, showing no emotion is normal, and not allowing your personal life to interact with your professional life
Unfortunately,
is
some
what
people
it
do.
should be. Yeah. And then, I had a boss once who used to come to the office and take out on us everything that happened to her at home, and that kind of sucked. It was pretty toxic.
Yeah, and it's easy to say to somebody, leave your
Leave it at the
baggage,
door.
yeah,
Right. When
and
your phone's beeping and someone's calling and you're getting bad news. But it's interesting that you say that, you do that even when it's, you come to a trade show. And I'd love to, know who you are on a Sunday afternoon when you're, not around dental people.
Well, unfortunately, I've set up my life so I practice dentistry 3 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm the editor-in-chief of this giant magazine, Dentistry Today. That's a 7-day, 7-night week.
Yeah, well, I know.
project.
I get emails from you at 3 a.m. sometimes.
Yeah, and then I'm also coming to shows like the Chicago Midwinter or other shows and teaching. So at least once a month I'm away. So I'm always preparing for the next thing. So it took me a long time to prepare. People don't get this. I had to do 2 3-hour lectures. It probably took me 50 hours
Oh, if
to
not
get
more.
these things ready to go. So that was my spare time on Sunday. I'm watching the Super Bowl and tweaking my PowerPoints and things like that. You know, but there's too many things. I'm involved in too many things, and it's just my focus because I want to do these things.
Yeah.
I don't need to do these things. I mean, I'm seeing these patients because these are my patients. I've had these same patients for almost 50 years.
You've been practicing for 50 years.
Almost 50 years.
Wow.
Maybe
Same
is it?
practice? Do you remember what? Do you remember when you went to? We jumped forward already, but let's talk about dental school. Where did you go to dental school?
School called New Jersey College of Dentistry, and they changed it to UNDMJ, University of Dental Dentistry and Medicine, New Jersey, which is now Rutgers.
Rutgers. Okay. Yeah.
We had a very, very, very tight. We came out of this. This is fun. We came out of the '60s, so we rebelled against these standards of the school. So one of the first things that happened to me was before we went to school, they said you have to have your hair cut a certain way. Your sideburns have to be over here. I go, what? I've been protesting for 4 years against all this stuff. So I get into dental school, myself and a friend named Jeff, and we said we're going to grow a beard. And
we're going to grow a beard.
And we're going to let our hair grow. And we got a lot of crap from the staff, for certain faculty members. And
because you weren't tightly cleaned.
No, and they made us. So the problem for me was that they were picking on me, these professors specific. But what it forced me to do is I had to be really good.
Yeah.
Because I had to be able to. They can't just throw me out of school because I had long hair. And so I had to be very, very close to the top of the class and something like that. I was not at the top of the class. I had some really smart guys with my class, but we did very well. But that was a challenge to balance those things, and eventually we went over, and I ended up got my beard, got my longer hair, and we tried to change the face of the whole dental school.
Just a bunch of hippies running the dental school.
Pretty
basically.
well. It wasn't all the class. It wasn't the whole class. Just a little core of us.
Core group of hippies. I'd be friends with the hippies. I think that would be a cool core group to be part of. Okay.
And then,
do you remember your first job?
In dentistry?
Yeah.
Oh, very simple. When I was in dental school in New Jersey, I had an opportunity. Well, first of all, this is kind of crazy. In the dental school, I used to work with the administration because I was an expert on just doing stuff. I can't, just administrative stuff. And something called a computer shows up at the school one day.
Okay.
And my undergraduate, Stony Brook, was computer science, computer programming. I was taking engineering classes, physics classes, math. So this computer thing shows up at the school. And they go, what are we supposed to do with this thing? I go, let me show you how it works.
Beep, boop, boop, boop. Yeah.
And we did some stuff. So I was playing like tic-tac-toe with it and things like that. And so as I was working as a student, the administration would have me come in to do little tweaks in the office. So when I graduated, they said, do you want to go to practice? I go, of course. They go, well, we could use you in the office, so why don't you do like practice and you could work. We'll make you the assistant dean.
What? Go, immediately after graduating, you were the assistant dean. Stop it.
So I go, wow. And I was crazy in school too. So the best thing was that when the semester started, they said, Paul, you have to wear a tie.
Oh no.
I go, a tie? Me?
I don't own one.
so I was in Jersey City. You take a special train into Manhattan. There was a store called Tie City.
Okay.
3 for $1. They're the ugliest ties.
3 ties for $1.
3 ties for $1, and they were horrifying. There was paisley and all this green. So I bought a bunch of these ties, and I went into the clinic, and the dean goes, "What the hell is that?" It's my tie. I go,
that's not a tie.
By the end of the first week, they said, "Get rid of your ties." And the other fun was I'd walk up to my old professors, who were my professor a couple of months ago. "You're fired. You're fired. You're fired."
Because you had the opportunity.
But I didn't like it because I wanted to be a dentist. I really did want to be a dentist. So I found a practice to buy in New Jersey.
Yeah.
The guy was retiring because the practice wasn't doing well. He decided to just sell it off. So I did this due diligence, and he realized that the practice was actually very valuable.
Oh,
so
wow.
he reneged on the whole process.
Huh.
I was ready to go.
So you were a business owner basically right out of school. You started this practice right away?
Well, I couldn't buy it. He decided not to sell it. So I had friends up in Massachusetts. So there was a company called Healthco. It was way before Patterson and all these other companies. And they said, call Healthco. And the guy said, what do you want? I said, well, I want to be an associate somewhere. He said, I got great news for you. This dentist just had a heart attack.
Great news. Someone
Wow.
just died. Wow. Okay.
He didn't die.
No.
He says,
Oh,
but-
he didn't. He
no,
didn't die
he just had
of
a
the
heart attack.
Okay.
So the office needs some help, and so they said, come on up and you can get an interview with this guy. And I interviewed with this guy, not the guy with the heart attack, this other guy.
Sure.
And he says, yeah, you know what, do you know what you're doing? I said, I no,
No
I've
idea.
just got out of school. So it don't matter. Just come on in, and you can see patients, and we'll show you what's going on. And by the end of they ended up staying there. And actually, the guy I worked for retired, and I kept that practice. And that was my first practice. So I actually bought the practice for like $500 or something, in probably after I was there for 5 years.
Oh wow.
And so I developed this very, very good practice, and it expanded to a certain extent. I actually ended up with 2 offices at some point. Everybody does like all these different things.
Yeah.
And I built a very, 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 very lucrative practice. But the key to me was patient interaction. These were not my patients. These were my friends.
Yeah.
And to this day, I still have my first patient ever, and families. So I have families, 3 or 4 generations of families now. And the thing that always made me feel good is if I had a patient who got married,
Yeah.
the spouse came to me.
Yeah.
So it built. So I probably, at this point in my career, I probably have 600 active patients who are still my core patients.
Okay.
So the short story is, there was a certain point in my career where I was getting very, very
So
busy
is your
doing.
office closed on Thursdays and Fridays?
No.
It's still open. Do you have an associate there?
Oh, let me back up a little bit. You gotta
Oh,
back
okay.
up.
We're backing up. Sorry.
Yeah.
At that point, it was 600 patients.
That's what it is now. No, I should have backed up the story. So I had this practice. It was a very good practice.
Yeah.
At a certain point, because of all my extracurricular activities,
Oh, yeah.
I'd be at the Chicago Midwinter meeting, and the compressor dies in Boston.
Oh,
I'd get a
yeah.
call. They go, hey, what are we supposed to do? So the associate said, you know what? Why don't I buy the office and you could just work for me? So that's
Yeah.
basically what we did.
Oh, okay. Smart.
And yeah, so and it
Takes a little less
it
less
didn't-
of
did-
those stressors
so
off
as
you.
practice transitions go, it did not go very well. Certain things happen. And so I ended up I said, you know what, the heck with this. And I ended up leaving that practice. And I have a friend down the street, literally, and he had a room. He says, Paul, I got this room. And I to this day, I'm sitting in this room, this one room.
Yeah.
But all my patients came with me.
Oh, well, that's
Um,
good. That's
yeah.
good that you were able to
And
bring
so
them
those of you who
over.
are saying, well, how do you do that? What about non-comp and all this
Yeah.
stuff? It was a very complicated situation, but I was able to do that. I was able to
You
move into
couldn't
this office.
solicit.
I didn't solicit.
Right. They just followed.
Exactly.
They just found out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They sort of found out because the practice owner
Yeah.
says, if we're looking for Paul, he's over here.
Yeah. He's down the street over there in that room in the back.
And so, and the
I'm
challenge I have
envisioning.
now.
Have you ever watched Better Call Saul? Have you seen the show Better Call? Do you know when he goes and takes a room in the nail salon?
Yeah.
And he has his legal practice in the back. I'm envisioning you like Better Call Saul,
No, it's-
leaving
it's-
that office and finding a
No,
room
it's
somewhere.
it's actually a great practice. It's a very, very good practice. A very good practice owner, very good friends, but they don't care what I do. I mean, actually, I can't be that blasé. But
Sure.
I'm not under the structure of a practice. But the beautiful thing for me is I'm practicing dentistry.
The way you want
I have
to.
no administration. I have no payroll. I have no, AR, no HR, whatever that is.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm involved, but it's not mine.
So who assists you?
I have my assistant she's been with me now for, wow. I don't want to say how old she is.
Well,
Let's say over 25 years. Let's just say
Wow.
that, but at least that.
So
and-
she was your assistant out of birth. Okay, so she's only
Yeah.
25 years old. Okay.
But
How did you manage? Like,
I just
I'm-
have to
a
talk
new-
about her though.
I haven't. Yeah. Okay.
Because-
Tell me
because
about her.
She's me.
Hmm.
She has my brain. We're working on a patient, and just a couple of weeks ago, we were working on a patient, and she's just giving this funny look, and she stops for a second, and she pulls out a burr and hands me a burr. I'm thinking,
What did she
how
want
did
me
she
to
know
do
that my burr was lying?
Yeah.
The diamonds weren't as robust as they were.
Yeah.
She's 10 steps ahead of me, and the patients, these same patients who've been with us for all these years, are upset because sometimes she has other jobs too. Her name is Carla. Where's Carla? Did something happen to Carla? How could you work without Carla? But
What's the secret to keeping an employee for so long?
in my practice, my original practice, I had employees who were with me from day one. So I had an employee who was there for 40 years, 30 years, mid-20s. I think when we sold the practice, there was probably one person that had only been there for 15 years. Why is it? Because it was my family. everybody was my family. I was not the boss. We all worked as a team. And this is an interesting thing I would like to present to the people who are listening to us. Everybody has these deals. They say, oh, you could give these certain benefits and do this.
Yeah.
I could give $10,000 to an employee on December 31st, and by the middle of January they go, whatever.
Huh?
Every year, with the exception of 1 year, I took my entire staff, no matter part-time, full-time, to the American Dental Association meeting, wherever it was. San Francisco, New Orleans, Philadelphia, Orlando. Everybody came on my dime within certain reasons. They worked very hard to double up in rooms, find the cheapest airfares. And when you come down to it, it didn't cost me more than probably, if it cost me $500 a person, that was a lot, right?
Yeah.
And to this day, they're not even working with me anymore. Hey, remember that time in New Orleans? Remember we did this thing?
Yeah.
And it was the best benefit. And the only time we didn't do it, and is when the ADA was in Hawaii.
Oh.
And it wasn't because of the expense; it was the time. We couldn't take
really
the time
far,
off.
yeah.
So I said, okay. I said, and this is going to be kind of funny. I said, you have a choice of any place in the country. I'll take you to some place in the country, just not the same time as the ADA.
Yeah.
Chicago.
So they wanted to come here.
They came to Chicago. So we worked it out, but we also have to have CE.
Yeah.
So we actually worked it out. We found a time that Gordon Christensen was actually teaching in Chicago. So everybody had to come to Gordon's course.
Nice.
And then we spent another 2 days. They went shopping and stuff. So I gave them some shopping money, but since they know, every year they knew that we're going to go to San Francisco, we're going to go to, they had a savings
saved it
account
up.
in the office. And the office had a savings account too. So every week we put, let's say we put $100 to this account. So I'm ready to go to San Francisco. I have $4,000 in my account.
Yeah.
So it was a no-brainer. And even, and I can't say that this is a harmonious staff. Everybody didn't love everybody.
Sure.
But after they were away for a week in San Francisco or wherever it was, they kind of did.
Yeah.
Or things got worse.
It brings people together, or it really pushes them apart. Yeah.
So
Are there any key things that you can say that every employer should do? Like aside from taking people on trips, there's a lot of people right now listening to you cursing because their team members are going to send them this and say like, well, Dr. Paul takes his team every year. I mean, it's a lot more than $500 per person these days. But
actually, if you figured it out, you might. It's actually not that much. But anyway, it's the personality of the practitioner, to be honest with you. So everybody's going to have a certain. If you are the boss, and sometimes you have to be the boss. I never took that on. I just never took that on. I mean, I can't imagine. I don't remember any conflicts or times where here's the rules. You have to do this. I mean, everybody would. We set the office up all together. We all did everything together.
Yeah.
And there's a business of the office. You come in, you have to do your work, and do as a hygienist, you have to do whatever you have to do there, and the office manager has to do whatever she has to do there, or he has to do there. So it's hard because every dentist has a different personality. I have a certain flamboyant personality. It just bleeds into everything I do. So it'd be hard for me to say, you should do what I did, because I don't think people can do what I did or do.
Well, everyone's different, right?
Yeah, so that's a hard question. That's a real hard question. And that's why I don't teach practice management.
Yeah.
I'll go see Lois Banther or somebody like that.
Yeah. Tell me about Dentistry Today. How did you begin? Okay, so was that your first step out of clinical dentistry?
No.
Let's take it back there. What was your first step out of clinical dentistry or adjacent to clinical dentistry?
So because of my background, this is way back before Bill Gates was a relevant person, computers were coming out to do things. And I understood what they did. I was one of the few people who understood it. So in the 1970s, late 70s, this is before PCs, I found a company in Utah that made a computer and it had dental software. That was really simple software. It just took care of billing and things like that. But I put this crazy machine in my office. It cost a fortune. My friends are buying cars.
Yeah.
And I bought this computer. And I was so thrilled. And so all of a sudden people coming to me and saying, Paul, what does this thing do? How does this work? So I ended up teaching different little meetings like the Iancu Dental Conference, things like that, on how to use a computer in your practice, things like that.
No way.
And then as things evolved, as computers PCs came in, I actually gave a course a couple of times where I bring a computer into the room and say, this is a computer. And there's something, when you buy a computer, it has something called memory. So I ripped the cover off the computer and said, this is the memory. and this is the hard drive. And it was a guy named Gallagher. He used to rip up. He was a comedian, so I'd rip the computer apart and throw all the pieces. So when you're buying a computer, you have a hard drive that's this size and a memory thing that's this much. And as that was going on, there was dental software being developed.
Right.
So the software companies found out about me, and they say, Paul, listen, we're writing some dental software, but we don't understand this. We saw this thing, it's called the 30 mod. I go, 30 mod? Yeah. Oh, that's a tooth number, and then MOD is a thing.
Okay.
So I was able to speak.
So you were teaching the computer geeks what dental geeks knew.
Exactly.
So you were bridging the gap between the two.
And so I was teaching software.
Were you the first one teaching software on dental?
I think
was there anyone else?
There were about 3 of us. There were 3 people. Larry Emmett was one. Barry Freiberg was one. Claudio Lovato. These are the names that the elders will probably know. And so so because we knew each other, we could talk to each other. We became the tech lecturers, and then we brought in other people who currently, like Marty Jablow and John Fluke, and we all worked as a team. But I have to give a shout out to a dentist named David Dodell, who lives in Arizona. David understood the internet before the internet existed.
Wow.
And he set up a group on this pre-internet thing of dentists who could actually go online. There was no online, but we were able to use these things called modems and talk to each other. And he set up something called the Internet Dental Forum. And there are still to this day members of this Internet Dental Forum who we all met online through this Dr. David Dodell, who's now the head of the school in Arizona. Oh God, what's the name of the school? He'll kill me. He's in charge of and he goes around to all the different dental schools and teaches them how to do IT and things like that. Anyway, so David set up the Internet Dental Forum, and then so we all never met each other.
Yeah.
And then he said, let's have a big meeting. So we had a meeting, I think, in D.C. or something, and we all met each other for the first time.
Wow.
And to this day, at this meeting, I've been pumping into people from the Internet Dental Forum.
That same group.
So but that also gave us more visibility. So the ADA found us.
Yeah.
The American Dental Association found us and said, hey, we'd like some people from the Internet Dental Forum to teach digital dentistry, whatever it was at the time.
That version of digital dentistry. The version we have now of digital dentistry is very, very different.
And so I've just evolved. And then the manufacturers will come to me and they say, we're putting a computer into this thing called the laser, and what do you think about that? And we have this new thing called the intraoral camera.
Yeah.
And so what do you think about that? The first intraoral camera I saw was $25,000. Wow. It was this big box like this, and so they drop it off in my office. They try this out and let us know if it works. So my office always had stuff coming in and out. I'd get to try out new toys. And
so you were part of some pretty big conversations very early on.
Oh yeah. And then
how do you stay humble and cool when you look at us like do you walk around here looking at all of the people and you're like I was the person that helped implement this into its inception, and now you're here
I'll give you a good
feeling like a big boss, but like let me tell you about the time where this was in my hands.
I'll tell you about the time early on in the development of intraoral scanning.
Yeah.
I worked with a group from MIT in Boston, and we invented our own scanner.
Okay.
The first intraoral scanner. It was called the Bronte scanner. I was the clinical director, basically. So the engineers would sit in my office, and they'd say, how's this camera supposed to go? Well, it has to be small enough to get into the back of the mouth. Okay, we'll make it smaller. What's a margin mean? I said, well, the margin's the thing around the back side of the tooth. So, and what do you have to make a cap? So I would be directing them, and they would just sit in the computer and go, okay, we got that. And they'd say, okay, do the scan. Let's make a crown. We make the crown and go, oh, the margins are wrong. What's wrong? Too big. Hang on a minute. Try it again. Well, let's do the contacts. So we developed this brand new scanner, and we would bring it to the marketplace. And I have to.
Did you bring it to consumer, or did you just try and sell it?
No. We wanted to do it, and the two founders were two young, really brilliant guys who are still out there doing things, and because they put the team together, they got me and they got the guys from MIT and the gals and everybody else. And one day, they got a knock on the door, and it's like, "Hi, I'm 3M."
No way.
And they go, "Hi, what do you want?" They go, "Well, we're interested in your technology, and we'd like to purchase it." And they go, "It's not for sale, because it's not finished." And they go, "What do you mean it's not for sale? We're 3M." They go, "Well, what are you going to do?" They go, well, "How'd you like $95 million?"
What?
And the guys go,
"Okay, it's for sale."
"Yeah, we can do that."
Stop. So they sold the scanner. So that's the 3 shape? Was
it was called Lava COS.
Lava COS. Okay.
And then it became True Definition.
True Def. Yeah.
So to this day, I still have some minor pieces of the puzzle. The problem that happened was they moved everything out to Minnesota.
Yeah. So they lost connection.
They lost all my engineers from MIT. The MIT guys and gals did not want to move to Minnesota from Boston.
It's very cold. I mean, it's cold in Boston too, but
no, it's not even that. I mean, Boston's Boston. And, so a lot of these people actually have gone to work for a company called Form Labs, which is a 3D printer company.
Interesting.
So and we're still so when you ask me that question, I can walk around and go to the Medic booth or the 3 Shape booth
or the Plan Mecca booth or any of these booths
but they know who I am too. So I've worked with the founders of Itero. I worked with the founders of 3 Shape. I've worked, and we'd sit around. We go to there's a conference in Germany called the IDS show.
Yeah.
I'd sit around.
Are you going? It's next week, isn't it?
Yeah. So I sit around with the CEO of 3 Shape, these two founders, and so what do you think, Paul? I go, well, you guys are in black and white. You should be in color. They go, all right, we'll do that. Things like that.
It's really cool.
So, but the problem for me now is because I can't be the top expert in this stuff. So I'm at this point in that world, I have enough information to give to the dentist or the hygienist or the assistant that wants to learn the basics.
Yeah.
But people have gone way past me now with taking the technology to places I've never been to.
Yeah.
And so I can't say
When did that happen? Was there ever a moment in your career where you're like, this is probably where I'm going to be, where I'm going to land, and the young ones are snipping at your feet trying to get your spots?
Not really. They're not
did
getting
that ever happen?
Excuse me. They're not really getting my spots. They're just taking what I've brought to the marketplace and just push it out to other limits.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I know how a 3D printer works, but I don't know. So I watch videos from some of the people they post, and they throw all this crazy software, and you can do this and do the mouth guard this way and this, and it's cool stuff. I just don't have the energy at this point to go that far.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a kid anymore.
You mean?
But I'm still respected. They still respect me.
Of course you are.
I'm like the grandpa.
You're extremely respected, and that's why I
wanted
you here today.
But I respect them. So I mean, I try to find, and you asked me about the magazine. So let me back it up. So right now with the magazine, I'm in charge of clinical content.
Right.
So I'm scouring. I look at Instagram and Facebook and all these different places, and I find new young dentists who are unbelievable.
Right.
And I track them down, and I say, how would you like to write an article about this scanner, about this 3D printing, and bring them in? And you'll see a difference in the magazine to a certain extent, where the old standards are still important. I mean, there's still important people that are sitting out there, but there's some young talent that I'm discovering and bringing them into the magazine. And their peers are going, wow, that guy's like 30 years old, and he's on the cover of the magazine.
Yeah, that's still one of my bucket lists. One day I will be on the cover.
But the short story of how I got to that is through the lecturing and all this other stuff, I started writing articles. I wrote for a very small piece of paper, a little handout for a while. It was called Tools Are Us. A guy named Dr. Robert Davis, and a few of us, Marty Jablo and John Fluke, also wrote for this. So we wrote little stories. And the next thing you know, I start writing a larger article, and Dental Economics said, hey, how would you like to write a column for us? I said, what do I have to do? They go, well, just every month just show up with a column. I go, oh, that's easy. Yeah. Every month? So the day before it's due, I'm like, oh.
Well, I didn't write anything this month. Oh, no. What am I going to do?
So Dr. Joe Blaze had faith in me, and he said, I'll make you the technology editor of Dental Economics. This is probably in somewhere in the early 90s, somewhere in there. And then when it became the year 2000, I had to write articles about that transition when it was the, what do they call it, the turnover to 2000. Oh, God. What's
Millennium.
Yeah, that whole thing.
When Y2K,
yeah,
when we thought all of the computers were going to explode.
Wow, there goes my brain. So
I got you. Don't worry, I got you.
So do the math. If I've written an article every single month since the early, the mid-90s through a certain point, and then one day, the editor-in-chief of Dentistry Today he stopped me in the street in Manhattan at the Greater New York meeting. He goes, I think you should write for us instead.
Wow. Is that how that was going to be my question, is how did that happen? How did you leave? Do you still write for DE? I don't
No,
yeah,
but I mean, I'm best of friends with all the people. There's the people who were there before, and also Pam Muniz was the new editor-in-chief, and Chris Salerno. We're all very good friends.
Yeah.
But Jim Ratcliffe had some confidence in me. He says, we were a bigger platform. He gave me a sales pitch, and he says, and plus we'll put you on the cover.
Oh,
I
you
said,
got
okay,
a cover.
okay.
The
now
cover. You got me at
You got
cover.
a deal. So I was the technology writer for for Dentistry Today for many, many years.
Yeah.
My editor-in-chief was Damon Adams, who's a wonderful, and is still a wonderful friend, and by the way, a very highly polished concert pianist. I mean,
Oh.
unbelievable.
Wow.
Very top shelf. Anyway, he said, I'm retiring, Paul.
Hmm.
I said, oh. He said, well, Jim's looking for a new, top of the thing. And he had a couple of people in mind. You're one of the people in mind. I said, I don't have time. He said, oh, you just read articles. I go, all right, I could do that. Well, that's not what it is.
No.
But so it's been a couple of years now. I took that over.
Yeah.
So what's happened
What's the most challenging thing about your job?
having having the writers get to the articles to me on time.
Really?
We have deadlines. And also,
Yeah.
I have to floor plan every issue. So every
Sure.
issue has to have a certain number of articles, and has to have a
Sponsors.
certain. No, that's not me.
No?
No,
You don't do any sponsorship?
No. It's in the back. It's in the background. This.
But you still have to hold the place when you're placing out you need to know, you don't do
Nope.
any of that at
Nope.
all? Someone else does that?
Yep. I'll be very honest, and this goes to all the magazines that you read. This is a magazine. It's a for-profit magazine. Dental Economics, Dental Products Report. All these magazines.
Yeah.
Dental Town. In each of the magazines, my editorial position is to bring the clinical content. So I'll find authors, I'll find old authors, new authors, write me an article. But one request I have is if you do a procedure, at least tell the readers what product you use.
Sure.
That's all. But I don't. So the article comes in. We put the article in print in certain format, and at that point, there's a crew at the magazine that says, oh, this person used a 3-shape scanner, so why don't we just let 3-shape know that Dr. So-and-so used a 3-shape scanner, and so they can go to 3-shape and say, would you like to support Dr. So-and-so's article? But that's behind me. That can't be in front of me because
No.
I can't be pushed around by manufacturers.
Yeah.
So it gets me in trouble sometimes. I mean, sometimes I'll put in an article that has no products in it,
Uh-oh.
and they go, "What's going on here?"
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not. But it's.
But if it's a good article, it's
yeah,
a good article.
no, it doesn't have
then,
anything to do with it.
Yeah, who cares?
But these every magazine has it costs money to print paper and all
Sure.
this stuff. So
Distribution, shipping.
but I'm not. But I'm not the marketing person. I never was a marketing person. So, and if I get like just now at this dental meeting here, I saw a new company,
Yeah.
and they said, "Well, how can we get our product in the magazine?" I
Yeah.
said, "Well, you have two ways. You can have one of the clinicians write an article from me, or you can talk to this particular person who handles your area, and they can do an advertisement for your new product, or can do a little bit of a blend." So that's how it all works.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that journey with us.
Yeah.
I think we're going to do our part 2 on this. I want to talk to you about your lecture about drop-in impression material. Do that quick part 2. And then, we'll get everyone to come back to part 2 with Dr. Paul. Stay tuned.